Alright, Money, here comes part 2 of your ice making tutorial. This one's a little more advanced. You might not have all this stuff, but I thought I'd show it to you anyway, in case you want to try and make big blocks of clear ice. I've got my little playmate here. Same concept. High temperature freezing, slow freezing. We want to insulate as much as we can and make sure that it freezes from the top down. Let's see, I've got a little line here. This is going to take 2 days, but when I tell people I make my own ice, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about putting some ice trays in the freezer. I make big blocks, and I'll do this. You know, I do this for all of our cocktails. I'll also do this when I go to Mexico. I'll make a big, huge block that you can then just chip off of when we go camping and stuff. So, man, I don't even know how many gallons this takes. It's probably 20 pounds, probably 2.5 gallons of water that'll fill it up to that line. And I do that line just because I've got it kind of dialed in. I go to that line and it takes 2 days in my freezer out back, and then it's good to go. It'll pop right out. It won't freeze completely. I don't want to freeze this completely because then I end up with the cloudy stuff on the bottom. So I try to catch it before it starts getting cloudy, and I can get everything. I just get a nice one big clear chunk, and I can then cut down into smaller chunks and stuff like that. So we're almost there. It doesn't really matter what temperature the water is, but I get to that line. Take the playmate. Ooh, all right. I've only got one hand. Ooh. Out into the garage. My freezer. Oh. Got a lot of crap down in there. I'm gonna move all that crap. You see that I got that little styrofoam thing. Basically, all that is for is to lift the cooler up off of the floor of the freezer. You don't want it touching the floor of the freezer, or it'll start freezing from the bottom. So you wanna insulate it as much as possible, and then you open her up. And now that should freeze from the top down and give me some nice clear chunky chunkies. So we'll come back in a couple of days and pull that out, and I'll show you that in a bit. Alright, Murray, we're at about 55 hours. I pulled my igloo out. I don't know how well you can see any of this, but we got a nice solid block of ice. I don't know if you can tell, but there's water down underneath there. You can see some of the bubbles and stuff. So I grab this thing, bring it upstairs to the bar, pop her out. And you can see that this is not, it's not solidified. So all the stuff that would become cloudy, all the bubbles and impurities are all in this liquid. They're all in here right now. We don't want those, so we get rid of them. And what I'm left with is this nice, solid block of really clear ice. And now I take it inside. Let's see. Boom. So, got this bad boy. Normally I'd throw it right in the freezer, let it solidify a little bit, but if I've got the time, I'll quarter it, which will make it easier to cut later. So I get these big chunks, slap them in the freezer. I can cut them down later.
set this one up for you just so you can see. And you can, so what I get out of this is the big square chunks that I'll use for, you know, one of my rums or whatever, or just regular cocktails. Normally, if you're at a bar and you're having a cocktail or whatever, it takes 15-20 minutes to drink it. It doesn't really get watered down. It doesn't really have time. But when you're making cocktails in this, you want nice big chunks so they last a long time. The cocktail doesn't get watered down. So I get these big honking ice chunks, chop them down. Now, as far as the spherical one, they do make these gadgets. They're brass, and it's a brass press kind of thing, and it's got a brass plate with a little scoop out, and another plate that goes on top of it with a scoop. So when you push them down, there's a sphere inside. And so what you do is you take one of these big chunks, you put it on there, you put the other brass plate on top of it, and the weight of the brass and the fact that brass conducts heat really well kind of melts it real quick and compresses this thing, and what you're left with, you pull it off, you got the nice clear sphere. And I was all like, dude, that's bitchin', I'm gonna go get one of those. And then I went shopping and I found out that they're like $400. So I'm gonna stick with my silicone spherical maker. As you can see, you get nice big chunks for your cocktails and everything. And it's all nice clear stuff. Boom.